everybody, and welcome back to the Real Estate Rundown. Today, I have the very fortunate opportunity to interview Kaylee McMahon, who is the founder of the Apartment Queen. But guys, she's got a resume here of being involved in over $70 million in transactions. She's been a real estate broker. She's got a bachelor's degree in molecular nutrition. She owns 7 apartment complexes across 3 different states. So, Kaylee, thank you for being on our show. We're really excited to hear from you today.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I appreciate it.
So, Kaylee, tell us a little bit about your journey on what brought you from molecular nutrition to Apartment Queen.
Yeah, I started off with biochemistry. It's a little bit more in the weeds. I don't enjoy that. So nutrition took it up a level so I could say, oh, how does this affect people's lives and their well-being and decisions they make and things like that, and their death rates and things. So it's kind of the same thing when you get accidentally getting into real estate and then being able to say, okay, I'm comfortable doing leasing, comfortable selling houses, condos, land, doing a few new builds with somebody else. It was his project, not mine, but learning, and then doing a flip and then hating that to going, there's got to be a better way to do this. Again, I operate at a 30,000 foot view. So for me, I wanted to create financial independence for myself. And now in a larger sense, my journey is to bring other women into that fold with me, to be able to create financial independence for them as well through cash flowing real estate. I mean, it's just a fast trajectory compared to a lot of other things out there.
You know, I love how you say accidentally got into real estate. That's so common with a lot of people is they didn't really picture themselves being a real estate investor or a developer or a fixer or a flipper. What was the accident that brought that on in your life?
So I was working for a company called Burkhart Dental Supply as a distributor rep. So I was someone that was helping doctors fresh out of school to build new practices, source capital equipment, supplies, and that was fine. But through a couple of bad leadership experiences, I knew that I needed to be able to lead in my own way. I just pretty much decided, hey, I'm not going to work for anybody anymore. I'm going to make up my own rules. I'm going to go figure this world out, figure out what works, what doesn't, and then run my own show. So I started a personal concierge business, which worked with wealthy individuals in Dallas, Texas, and Fort Worth, who have several homes, lots of cars, several businesses. They're very busy individuals, usually have kids. I mean, they have a lot going on. So with all those moving parts, you need someone to be able to organize all of it. So I'm really good at being able to put in systems in place and being able to organize things. And if it's just me executing, I can execute them. So I enjoyed that, but got to a point where, you have the ESBI, from Rich Dad Poor Dad, the quadrant. And so I was self-employed or S, but I wanted to be B type business was really what I wanted. And I guess investors, cool too, but really I just wanted a self-running business. And so that wasn't going to be happening if I'm the only one running it. So a friend of mine helped me replace a battery in my car at Walmart one day and was like, your concept is a great concept. It works. It's definitely needed. And I think that you have a knack for it because I know a little bit about a lot. I've always been kind of a sponge, whether it's, history, politics, travel, whatever. I just know a little bit about everything. So he goes, you relate to a lot of people. Why don't you get into real estate? Because it was getting to the point where I couldn't even really bootstrap it, to tell you the truth. So he goes, you need cash. You need cash for people, systems, advertising, marketing, the whole shebang to grow your business. So why don't you get into real estate and, sell 4 or 5 houses a year and then take that money and put it into your other business to grow that one. And that just made sense, So I was like, well, I didn't see myself as a sales agent, but sure, if that will help my other business grow, let's do it.
That's funny because there's a lot of people that get into real estate part-time that it becomes very lucrative. They see themselves doing that a lot. But what took you from there to investor? What really got you out of the B quadrant into the I quadrant?
When I was involved in real estate in the beginning, it's like I mentioned earlier, it started off with leasing. In Texas, you have to be a licensed real estate agent to be able to actually help people get an apartment, which is weird. But places like, for example, I used to put people in Colorado. You don't need to. You could just place them there. But however, that was something that was easy, and it was, you didn't have to write any contracts up. There was no legalese at all. And so, I mean, it was safe, if you will. And honestly, they just scare the absolute living crap out of you when you're in real estate school. They don't teach you anything. So
Right.
the only way once you get into the real world to figure out, well, what niche or part of real estate do I even want to be in? I don't have a clue. You don't learn anything in school. You have to go find people who are doing it actively and kind of like watch and learn and read books and get involved. But it opened my eyes kind of in the beginning when I was doing the leasing, and then I got involved in doing single family home sales and condos. And then I decided to be a broker. So when I decided to be a real estate residential broker, I also was, I think, either finishing up my first flip. I don't remember, but that was happening kind of at the same time. On those things, I realized in real estate, there's more to investing than just flipping that house. And, it was, I don't remember again if I read Rich Dad Poor Dad first or not. I think I did. I really do, because once a year I'll go away for about 2 weeks, usually, on a vacation by myself. And I'll go kind of like soul searching, if you will. And that trip was Australia. I lived in a car for 2 weeks and pretty much just stop in every city all the way down the coast and figure out, what am I doing? What's my mission? Where am I going? Am I getting closer to that every day, or am I just, piddling away time? Kind of realizing that on that trip, that 5-6 books or so I finished while I was driving during that trip. And it really made sense. I mean, it really makes it simple for you to understand. So I only thought the word investor for my whole life meant when my adoptive dad would sit in his office and trade stocks, and he would lock the door and I would be able to go in there. I'd kind of be, hey, but I don't know anything about it. So pretty much because I didn't know about it, I didn't feel like engaging that at all. But that's kind of what I associated with investing and being involved in real estate. There's, literally everything around you can invest in, you can flip, you can pull value out of, you can leverage, all kinds of things. So I'm a sponge, and it was really awesome getting the opportunity during that transition of the flip and the broker thing. I don't remember at what point I got invited to speak on Propelio's network. So it's a free investor education network that was funded by investors. And it's a network where we would have interviews put on YouTube and some other channels like Facebook, where we would interview individuals that, one of the gals on the show, it was an all-female panel that I was on. And one of us did house notes. One of us did historic remodels. One of us had a title company. All different things. And I was kind of in this transition. So realizing, oh, wow, like there's so much more out there than just flipping a house as an investment. So I got from the Rich Dad Poor Dad book to the flip house thing, and then realizing there's ways to just flip paper. There's ways to, be creative, wholesale, all kinds of things. But when I was in that network, going to their once monthly events at the time, they had a speaker that was there. And when I heard him speak at the end of the evening, I said, shit, that is me in 5 years right there. So I decided, and I met him, and met him for dinner, and he's moving to the Philippines because he had sold everything off and obviously had success, and kind of got connected with the right people that have become like family to me.
That's amazing. That's another thing that I see in the multifamily syndication world, is that there is a sense of family, that people are willing to help people learn, grow, network, and I see where you are also the kind of person that is taking that, what you've received, and then turning that around and making it your mission to give back to other women to help them get the leg up to be who you have become and get to the point where this gentleman was, where you're headed. What is your focus when you're working with women, getting them up this ladder from where you were to where you're at to where you're going? What is your process?
Well, honestly, we're figuring all that out right now, because you kind of have to just put it out there, just throw it out there and see what sticks. And so right now there's 2 different people that come to me, and based on where I'm at in life right now, there's only one category of people that directly can just link up and get going. So those are women that are accredited investors, or women that have taken equity out of a home that they purchased for themselves, or maybe even I have a couple women that have been divorced. They have a divorce settlement, and they're like, I don't want to spend this on stupid stuff. I want to do something that's going to produce something for me and my kids. So there's different groups of people. There's people that are, or women that are starting, And, I can kind of pick up on both because I've lived both lives, kind of see where they're at. And I'm kind of trying to figure out a way that I can either take these people who aren't quite ready yet to do this stuff over here and be able to help them, but without, because I don't really want to coach. I don't want to do the guru thing. I don't want to. So we're figuring that out. Like right now, I've compiled a ton of videos into a library of all the women that I work with in the multifamily industry and even outside of it. My podcast also is all women that, how did you start your business? Did you do like me on credit cards? Like how did you live with your parents? Like how did you figure it out so that people can hear it's mindset in the beginning. It really is. And so for me personally, I've got some major brain damage, from my past and my growing up being abused. And so for me, it was really hard to see what other people see from the outside looking in, and not because you only know what you know, you don't see what other people see and your behaviors and words and all these things. You just do it, so a few people were helpful to me being able to kind of figure that out and figure me out. But mindset is huge. So, being able to get to that point where you can self-love and believe in yourself and have self-confidence, that's extremely, extremely critical in the commercial real estate world. I'll say that because it's a male-dominated industry. And so it's an interesting dynamic where I'm trying to find this good balance between not being an autocratic leader, but also not being a cis, so there's as a balance in the middle where, I can speak with authority. I can speak to people and mean what I say and be taken seriously and, not be a joke or whatever, but at the same time, not have to boss people around. So mindset, and then kind of like, I feel like we have to be a little smarter than you guys when it comes to even having meetings. Like I had a chapter in my book I'm writing all about this right now, where it's like, there's certain things like if you want to make sure this relationship stays professional, there are certain words and certain things to just completely not even talk about and just completely jump over that and avoid it. And you will keep that relationship professional. And I've tested it and it's worked. But you also have to say these things to someone else with a smile when you say them, so you don't come off as aggressive or whatever, because there's this perception thing. So a lot of it has to do with mindset, but then a lot of it also has to do with like population of people as we are, how we understand the male and female dynamic, what we think of how it should work, and therefore our attitudes and our actions and behaviors. So, there's a great book out there called Women Don't Ask. And it's the only book I found so far where the professors that wrote it, they're from Carnegie Mellon University, and they have tons and tons of numbers and data to back up all the things that I think as females, we know with our intuition what the challenge really is, but we don't know how to attack it until we can put numbers behind it and say, oh, this is how we can do something about it. So it's a great book to be able to understand the difference and figure out how to maintain your power.
That's amazing too. And it's unfortunate that you guys have to think that you need to be smarter than men when we all know that women are naturally smarter than men. Men are very simple creatures, but it's amazing to see that you are not letting that ceiling dominate you, change you. You're out to not only show yourself that you can do it, but to make it accessible for others. And the beautiful thing about that is you're starting with something that is so simple with mindset, and so many people forget. They go, why does mindset have anything to do with buying a house? Because like anything, the world is going to go up and down and sideways. We're right in the middle of a huge transition in everything. And if your mindset is not anchored and you're swinging around like a flag in the wind, you're going to be all over the place, and you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt your reputation. You're going to hurt your ability to focus and to function and to find deals and to do your job. And it's so important. And it's great that you have the understanding, obviously, that mindset is the key. It's the cornerstone to being successful at anything, but you're applying that with real estate. It's so key. How is it that you are able to position yourself and the women that are with you on a level up from men? How is it that you're posturing yourself to be able to achieve that?
Well, there's a couple of different things. Like I mentioned before, I lead by, I don't lead like an autocratic leader where I'm the boss. You have to go through me. That's not how it works. You have to figure out what people are strong at, what their strengths are, And if their strengths align with what you may need at that moment, then you guys can partner together and work, or, they can support your business or whatever it is. So you can't lead by forcing people to do things. Like I mentioned earlier, you kind of have to let things kind of come to you. That's been a big lesson of mine, is stop trying to hustle to find new deals, find new partners, find more money. Like, let it freaking come to you. Like, find what you're really doing in this world, and people that align with you will just show up. But also the other thing, being consistently genuine about your mission and what you're doing, is also, men and women are equal for sure. There's definitely not I don't really understand the word feminist enough to be able to use it right now, but from the assumption, or the, I guess, how it makes me feel to hear that word, or what I associate it with, is kind of, like I said, an autocratic, forcible leader. And it's not the case. I mean, the reason I've gotten where I am is because of men. I mean, it's a male dominated industry. So while they aren't my mentors, they're my sponsors. So somebody who, maybe cares about the same thing that I do. And, like I said, I've formed kind of a family, not kind of, like a family with these people, where I can tell them anything. Like, if I'm struggling or need to get out, I can call, I'm in jail, whatever. I'm very close to these people, but you have something in common. And for us, it's, that we like for this person I'm thinking about right now, we just have been through some major shit right now, where I realized, wow, that's why we connected. Because I didn't feel like I gave that person enough value starting off in our relationship. He gave a lot, and introduced me to the right people, and really kind of set things up. That person just basically, we had in common that we both, we stand for what's right, treating people right. Like, for example, there's so many little mistakes we can make as people. We're freaking human. We're infallible. We're not infallible. Nobody is. And you have to have a little grace to understand that. But at the same time, there are other different, like, breeds of people who have ill intent, and they want to hurt you. And we don't do that. So associating yourself with the right people, and then having men help me, so that, like, for me, they're the true leaders that really understand that we have to come together and support each other. It's not us against them, like I think of or associate as a feminist, but it's more about, hey, this person put me forward and introduced me to the right people, and vouched for me, and financially vouched for me as well, and helped me do things that I needed to do. I wouldn't be where I am without that person. So not being afraid to find those people, men or women, but that align with your true values, and, we can help each other.
That's awesome. And, that's something that a lot of people don't really understand, is that you are around. I mean, you attract who you're around. You attract who you're mimicking. You attract who you're mentoring with. And, like you said, not trying to force deals, not trying to cram a pipeline full of stuff, but making sure that you're aligned with the right people. Those people are going to bring more like-minded people. What are some of the first things that you help women do to overcome the mindset? You mentioned there was a couple of things where you guys as women undermine yourselves. You discredit yourself in your own mindset. What are some of the things that you help women, my listeners, my female listeners, to overcome initially, to really embrace who they are and how really smart, intelligent, and powerful they can be when pointed the right direction, doing the right things?
Yeah. So there's three things I could say right off the top of my head that, for example, if you wanted to get started today, working on, like I said, maintaining your power and having more respect, getting more business, things like that. I'd say the top three things are definitely the fact that we overshare, and I'll think about it in a minute. But basically, when you over sorry, think about it. You're at a grocery store and you're just walking in front of somebody. You're not doing anything wrong. You're like, sorry, like, sorry for existing, sorry for breathing, and there's nothing to be freaking sorry for, and the fact is that when you have to constantly say I'm sorry for little minuscule things, where men only say I'm sorry if they believe they've done something wrong. So that becomes more meaningful. And it's something that when you say I'm sorry, it's I'm truly sorry. There's something that we need to talk about, fix, whatever, not just I'm sorry for being around, or, whatever it is. And so all the time in emails, I've got women that email me, sorry, I didn't do this. Sorry, I didn't follow up fast enough. Sorry. I'm like, if you say sorry one more time, stop over sorrying, because what happens is what you're doing is you're giving up your power. You're giving the ability, like, you're asking for forgiveness from somebody else for something that isn't a big deal. Like if you're late or whatever, I never say I'm sorry, ever. I say, thank you for your patience. Shit happens, whatever. And we move on. Life goes on. but you give away your power by giving it to somebody else, because you have to wait for them to forgive you before you can move forward. And so instead of over sorrying, just try to say it when it's really important, or when you feel like you've done something wrong and you need to apologize for. And the other thing that I mentioned was oversharing. So oversharing is something that I'm guilty of for sure. And what happens, for example, if I'm emailing my attorney something that I need him to get to the other party, or something where it's a business deal, it's simply like putting 1, 2, 3 lines of text of what the necessary information is totally okay. There's no reason to add verbs to it. There's no reason to embellish, explain yourself, tell a story, a narrative, any of that kind of stuff, because then you're going to lose the power and message of what you're trying to share. And then also in a work setting, for example, I don't know how close, your colleagues are, or if you're working for somebody else, but for example, if you had a rough weekend, you have, I don't know, you're married to someone who's divorced, and their kids and their in-laws came over for the weekend or whatever, and like they just caused hell and, tore everything down and fought with each other. And then you're at work telling this to your coworker, who goes, "Hey, how was your weekend?" You're like, "Oh my God, it was like this. I ended up drinking a full bottle of wine by myself, and I just didn't want to deal with it." And that's oversharing. All you had to say was, "Yeah, the weekend didn't work out as well as I wanted to. My stepkids were nuts. How was yours?" So you can tell a story, but you don't have to overshare all the details that, unfortunately, people have their own perceptions, their own opinions, their own thoughts, and you can't control those. So the only way to control them is to listen more than you talk, and share less of like intimate details, unless they're like in that close circle of friends with you. And I'm trying to think of the third one. It'll probably come back to me, but
Sure.
those are two of the top 2 things that take away your power. Yeah.
So, Kaylee, talking to somebody who's just getting started, and they understand that they've got this growth mode to go through. They understand that they need to get some mentorship. They've read the book. They're excited. And when I say the book, I mean, we all know as investors, our first book is really Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? I mean, that's kind of our launching off point with most people. I mean, that's the basics of what money structure is about in investments. But once people are excited, what are some of the simple little things that they can do to get started that get them on the road, even while they're still at a 9-to-5 job? They don't have the ability to flip a house. They don't have this or that, but there's simple things that they can do to get started, taking them down this path and into this journey. I guess what I'm saying is as people want to grow in this area, 10 years ago, real estate was not sexy. Nobody wanted anything to do with it. Everybody was losing it or giving it back to the bank. It had no value, except those that really understood it, and they were gobbling it up. Where do you get that information, the courage, the learning that you need to be able to take the next steps into your investor relationship, into your investor journey?
So I guess the most reliable source of information that I've found is through economists, because obviously you can follow other people and you can take information from them, but it depends on who you're listening to, as far as how data driven their message is, or how much fluff is in there, or whatever. So for me, I'm not totally data driven, but it's important. So for me, if I'm going to spend time listening to something, I want to make sure that there's gold nugget. I don't want to just listen to fluff. So I would say, for example, for my favorite economist, the Texas A&M Real Estate Science Center, or not science, Real Estate Center, Dr. Mark Dotzer is my favorite economist that I listen to and follow. He seems to have a really good 30,000 foot view of how things are going to go. And that's really key whenever you're looking at, even an investment in a market. For me, I want to historically know over 30 years, how has this market performed? How's the info cap rate done its thing? Has it changed? So the more zoomed out perspective you have of that market, the more you can see trends and the more you can predict trends. And so he's not a gloom and doom guy either. So he's realistic. So that's one of my favorites. There's several other resources out there. One off the top of my head I can remember is IMN. IMN is a network that has a lot of data that they actually compile, and especially when it comes to multifamily housing. But more so, I would say NMHC. You can kind of track on their site. I like A&M's because it's got up to the month employment and population data, Whereas if I go to city-data.com, where I normally go, or if I go to Census Bureau is behind, so many years. And so Texas A&M has it up to, like, for example, I was looking last month in in July, they have it updated through May. So then they would have June. So it's pretty much up to date. City-data is based on the census, and you have Census Bureau. Bestplaces.org is another good one, especially if you're looking at crime. So just having all these different resources, like for San Antonio, Texas, for example, I look in the major MSAs or metro statistical areas in Texas. So Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, Austin, San Antonio. And San Antonio is priced not super high, but it's kind of up and coming. But it's a really weird place because block to block, the crime changes block to block. I mean, literally, unless you know it really well, it's really hard to figure out if you want to invest there. So if you go on to their city website, I really don't remember what it is, but it's like satexas.org, something like that. I don't even know, but they're just their city website. And then they actually have under the police department and under something to do with crime reports. Basically, you can get into their LexisNexis system without having to actually have a login, and you can look at literally up to the minute crime data that's happening and track it over a couple of weeks and kind of see if your prospective investment is going to be in a crime-ridden area, because you can't get out of that. If you're buying a C-class property in a D-class area, you're screwed. Don't do that. You always want to buy one class higher in the neighborhood that your property is sitting in. So those are just a couple. I mean, I've got more. What my next goal soon here would be to do is to put together a quarterly white paper that basically grabs all this different data and says, hey, here's all these different sources. Here's what the data says, so that anyone that's interested can kind of see where I'm getting my information from.
And that's so interesting too, because a lot of people look at the data, but only look at the data that's contained in the balance sheet and the profit and loss. They don't look at the statistical data of the city, of the neighborhood, of the block. How did you figure that out? Was it somebody that showed you that, or was it a project that you bought that didn't go quite right? Or how did you get to where you knew that you had to focus on that particular thing?
So when you look at a multifamily deal, for me, what we do, because there's a lot of information, there's a lot of deals that come in, you're not sure if they're good, they're bad. So we have a couple of things that we look for. You want to do like a quick and dirty analysis of something. So an easy way to do that is to know, first of all, is that a market you even want to invest in? So I use like a 5-prong approach, and it's literally the same thing that Neil Bawa uses. I mean, I just copied his, so like you said, you get it from somewhere else. You don't have to recreate the wheel. But it's population growth, medium income growth, home value growth, crime decrease, and job growth. So those are like the 5 things that we check on, and they all have certain frames of reference depending on the population, how much, how little, if it's over 1 million population, what percentage of growth, say 20% of. So it's all defined. I think he actually has a free spreadsheet that if you kind of like mess through his website, you can find it. But I use that. And the spreadsheet is great because you're going on city-data.com and you're taking the delta or the change of what is the last data point. So I think it's 2017 or something. And then 10 years prior, when you're tracking it over that time, you'll put in the beginning value and then the current value, and then the spreadsheet will automatically calculate for you what the delta or the change is. And if it meets the requirements in the population growth or the whatever, it'll turn green. So you can look at all these 5 things and go, okay, is it 3 out of 5 or 2 out of 5 or 5 out of 5 or whatever? And that was just something, like I said, I learned from Neil, and that's something that all of the other investors do, because just like when you're picking a large market to invest in, who knows what's going to happen with HEROES Act right now, but normally you want to look at a place that's landlord friendly, business friendly, and tax friendly. With new changes, like I mentioned, that may not even matter anymore. I don't know, but normally you look at a state, for example, like that, and then you find the cities that meet those 5 criteria, and then you drill down to the zip code, which you'll look at. So the spreadsheet has all this stuff. It'll look at the school district. It'll look at poverty. It'll look at median income, or not income, but median rent. You'll go look at your deal, at your prospective deal, and underwrite the actual deal too. But I mean, if your market's not good and you can't see it growing, for example, there's a market in Texas that it's growing. It's a good market, but when you look at all those factors, population growth for me and job growth are the 2 biggest, most important things. Because like, what the heck is the economic driver that's moving someone to come into your community or to come move there? I mean, if it's not, if there isn't a steady stream of people coming, like why invest there? You have to have those economic drivers.
So what I hear you saying is that this is another tip and a trick you picked up from the mentorship that you've had, the learning that you've come up with, and how you pulled all that together. And now you're boiling that down and you're putting it in your own words and getting it out to the women that are working with you and growing that. That's such an awesome thing. And it's something that I really think is great. And I see it so often, again, like I said, I see it so often in the multifamily world that I don't see it as much in the rest of the business world. You don't see it in Wall Street. You don't see it, in the mutual fund guys that, they're taking these people under their wing and they're saying that, hey, this is really a networking event. We want to get to know you better. We want to learn from you. We want to hear what you've got to say. I just think that part of what you're doing is so key, and it's something that definitely needs to be done. And it's awesome to see a woman championing for other women, because that's a safe space for you guys, and getting that information out there to bring up the next wave of women entrepreneurs, which is what we really need, because we need that balance. We get, way out here on the testosterone cliff with guys and all our machismo. You need that balance and you need that sanity that women bring into the deal that says, hey guys, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because 50% of the person buying the apartment is the female part of the couple. And without understanding that, so often that gets missed. And so that's really awesome that you're doing that. Kaylee, just to wrap up real quick, you've given us such just a ton of information. I really want to thank you for your time, but how can my listeners get in touch with you? How can they get access to the library that you've spoken of? How can they get access to you personally, to follow you, to see what you're doing, to be a part of what you've got going on? It's super exciting.
The easiest way is to go to my website, www.theapartmentqueen.com. My email is admin@theapartmentqueen.com.
Thank you so much for stopping at the Real Estate Rundown and giving us some of your time. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Shannon, for having me on your show. And I just want to say, just like Warren Buffett says, could you imagine what we could do to this planet if we utilized 50% of our population that we're underutilizing right now? That's all I got.
That is a great quote to leave us with. Thank you so much, Kaylee.